Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy and well in these really crazy times. We had this presentation about a month ago and it went really well, but we noticed that from the people that signed up to the people that attended, there was a little bit of a gap. So we wanted to run this again in case people missed it and really wanted to have the chance to see it. Normally we would be doing this event a little bit differently. In the past, we would have loved to have had a product presentation like this in one of our showrooms live, where you guys could really get up close with the product and feel it and see it really well. But I hope you really enjoyed this format. The last time we did this, it worked out really well. So. Today, what we'd really like to do is to walk you through some of the new exciting collections that we've added to our assortment this year. These additions, full range, so new colors, new sizes, textures, even new technologies for some of these new products. Now, if you've been in our showrooms recently, you may have seen some of these new products. But it's always great to sort of go through them, talk through the features and benefits, and to see them used in some fun and really unique kind of ways. So first, some introductions. My name is Luke Crownover. I've been with the Tile Shop just over 11 years. I started out in our showrooms in sales, so I'm really a product guy at heart. And about 2.5 years ago, I moved up to our corporate office to work on our buying team, so we were sourcing product. And then about 9 months ago, I started working for our marketing department as the photo studio manager.
Hi everyone, I'm Shahan Ganchi and I will be behind the scenes today. I've been with the Tile Shop for about a little over 5 years, working in the marketing team in different areas from social and email. I will be handling all the Q&As. So there's a Q&A feature that is enabled. So if you have any questions about the products, feel free to use that feature and I'll be watching and managing it and then interjecting throughout Luke's presentation to get those questions answered. If you feel like you missed something or at the end there was something else that popped in your head, we will be sharing our emails and you can feel free to reach out to us directly. So without further ado, Luke, let's take it away.
Definitely. So this presentation is going to be about 40 to 45 minutes. And so we've left a little bit of a buffer at the end for questions. We know that your time is precious, so we want to make sure that you get the content that you want, but then you're free to leave when we get finished here. All right, so without further ado, our first collection that we introduced this year is called the Amazonia collection. Now, this collection is near and dear to our hearts because it's the core of one of our signature looks that we're calling Modern Botanicals. Now, this look was created by our interior design manager, Kirsty Froelich, and I absolutely love how she's really taken the classic black and white look and infused it with the gorgeous colors and the vibe of the tropical rainforest. Using the Amazonia Emerald Hexagon as the focal wall of the shower and pairing it with the green accent wall behind the vanity really brings the outdoors in here and adds a fresh, soothing feel to this normally neutral palette. Now this collection is a porcelain tile and is available in 2 different shapes. We have a 14-inch hexagon and we have a 5.5-inch square size. This is available in 3 different colors. So we have the emerald that we saw featured in our signature look. And this has the gorgeous tones of blues and greens and some of the pops of the gold, red, and yellows in those tropical prints. Then we have the Kato look. Now this brings you rich, warm tones of orange and red and really hits home those great terracotta tones. And finally, we have the gray colorway. Now this takes a little bit more of a muted approach to the tropical print, but it still allows a hint of some of those bright colors of the rainforest in the print. Now, the square shape has 36 different faces or prints, and the hexagon has 26 unique faces. And it's about a 60 to 40% ratio for the sort of plain cement looks to the 40% of the tropical print on these tiles. Now the background and surface texture of these tiles is inspired by sort of a weathered cement or stone look, which makes the juxtaposition of this tropical print on the surface really fresh and exciting. You really can bring the outdoors in with this collection. One of my favorite features of this product, you can see in the photo in the top left there, you can see those areas of the tile that look like they have a little bit of a glitter or a sheen on them. It's a secondary glaze. It's a granular glaze that's been added, and it really provides this look and feel of sort of a worn effect, and it gives this really cool sort of bohemian vibe to this look.
Luke, there's a question here for, it's rated exterior use. Can this go in a pool?
Great question. Absolutely. So this is a porcelain tile. It's got a really low water absorption rate, and it deals with those pool chemicals really well. One note to consider when you're installing tile in a pool, every layer that is installed needs to be cured fully before the next layer and before you add any water to the pool. So your base concrete layer of the pool form needs to be fully cured, and then you can add your thin set to adhere your tiles. That has to cure fully. Then you can do your grout, and then that cure fully before you can add any water. But definitely, this can totally go in a pool. Great question.
Great. Another question also about the faces on the tile. What does that mean?
Oh, no, great. So faces or prints or patterns is how we describe the different unique prints on the surface of each tile. So if we go back to the shower wall here, the hexagon tiles have 26 unique prints that you'll see throughout the patterns here. So you can see, you might be able to see in some of these tropical prints where you might see one of those prints repeated. After 26 individual prints, you'll start to see some repeat in the pattern. Likewise, that square shape has 36 faces. So after 36 tiles, you'll start seeing some of those repeats. Great questions, totally. Alrighty, so our next collection, oh, was there another question, Shahan?
That's it for this one. Yep.
Okay. Our next collection is called the Black and White collection. I really love this. You're going to hear me say I really love this a lot because I really do love a lot of these things that we brought in. This collection was inspired by fabric prints and patterns, and they really bring a nice, bold black and white statement to any space. So these are an 8-inch porcelain tile, and it's available in 3 different patterns. So here we can see the Metropolitan pattern, which features sort of interlocking squares that create almost a 3-dimensional effect in the pattern. Then we have the tweed, which is sort of a traditional houndstooth pattern that comes to life in like a really striking way. And finally, we have the cloth pattern, which is inspired by hand-woven textiles on a loom. Now, one of the things that I think makes this collection really great is that the patterns are so oversized compared to their fabric inspirations. So it takes these normally subtle patterns that you might see in fabrics and turns into something really graphic and bold. These tiles feature a great matte finish, so they're perfect for any space because they're porcelain. They can go outdoors or indoors. They can be used in wet spaces as well. And in these photos, you can see how these patterns are used where a single pattern is repeated to create the look. Another great idea with these ones is to mix all 3 of these patterns together to create a one-of-a-kind patchwork design in your space. Alrighty, our next collection is the canvas collection. This is inspired by marbling, which is the sort of artisanal decorative technique that's really become all the rage in interior design. So this technique is where paint is applied in a thin layer on top of water, and then whatever product you're looking to decorate is then dipped into that paint on the surface, and so that is then printed onto the surface of that product. So it takes that really cool, interesting marbling technique and applies it here to the surface of these tiles. These are 9-inch by 9-inch porcelain tiles, and it has 2 different colorways. So seen here, we have the gray colorway, which has sort of a medium tone gray background with that gorgeous white marbling effect. And then in the bottom left, you can see the silver colorway, which is more of a light, sort of subtle gray background with that white marbling. Now, at face value, the look of these is really cool and unique, but there's actually a little bit of technology here that really adds that extra layer of interest. So on the white areas only of these tiles, an extra layer of granular glaze has been added. So the white areas are a little bit more shiny than the background. So two things, it makes that white marbling really pop on the surface of that background color, but it also just gives a little bit of sparkle to the look, which really takes that to the next level. Alrighty, so this is our MALLORCA collection. This series of 2.5 by 8-inch ceramic subway tiles is inspired by the Zellage tile from Morocco. Now, true Zellage tiles are made with ceramic tiles that are set in a plaster base, and then once that dries, the tiles are chipped and hand chiseled to the desired shape and size. So this process for real Zellage tiles results in uneven edges and varying thicknesses in the tiles, which can make installation a little more difficult. So what we get here with the MALLORCA is we get that really great look of the Zellage tile, but without the headache of some of those inconsistencies that you'd get from the real thing. So some of the features that really tie into that Zellage look are that great uneven surface texture. You have those rough uneven edges at the surface, but the bottom of these tiles is nice and even, so it's easy to install. There's great variation in the colors here, and there's actually a really faint pearlescent finish, and you can sort of see that in that bottom picture in the back wall. All these things together really lend themselves to this great handmade look. Now these are available in 3 different colors. So we have a white, a gray, and a really gorgeous soft blue. And each of these comes with a coordinating bullnose in the same size. So it'll be that same 2.5-inch by 8-inch piece. The rounded edge will be on the 8-inch side. So you can really finish off any look with these.
Luke, there was a question about the color variation compared to the handmade Zellage tile.
Oh, yeah, great question. So we talked about faces with the Amazonia collection where there are actually printed patterns or designs on the face of the tiles. And so that's one way to talk about variation in the tile. With something like this, where it's just a single color and there's no like pattern on the tile, we talk about the variation color, we call that chromatic variation. So with the MALLORCA series, I'd say we have sort of a medium chromatic variation. And again, that just really hits home that great handmade quality, that handmade feel that's so in right now. Great question. Alrighty, so our
Luke,
next collection.
There's another question. Speaking of finish and bullnose, can you speak a bit about how the previous patterns are finished? So canvas.
Yeah, so the canvas and like the black and white and the Amazonia, they're produced as floor tiles. So those products don't have coordinating trim pieces, but we have so many options both in ceramic stone or in like a metal edge, you know, an L channel or something like that. That would be perfect for finishing those edges if you wanted to use them on a backsplash or in a shower area. You know, finding that perfect coordinating trim piece will be really easy for you.
Thanks.
Great question. Alrighty, so this is our MUKKA collection. Again, I love this collection. One of the things I love about this collection is actually the way that it's made. So you can see here the look of this tile is inspired by sort of the irregular surface of a cracked and weathered leather. Both the visual texture and the physical texture here perfectly align with real leather. And so the technology that's used to create these is both with the mold that's used to give that texture and also with the way that it's glazed and with the print. Now it's available in 3 colors, and this is a color body porcelain. So we have the first color, which is the light sort of creamy butter color. Then we have that great rich and earthy cappuccino, that sort of medium brown. And finally, we have the coffee, which has that dark espresso kind of look to that color. Now, these tiles are rectified. You can see that the edge, it's a very nice straight edge, which means that these tiles can be installed with very small grout joints, which means that you have a very seamless look, and also fewer grout joints is great for less maintenance. Again, seeing that texture there, that texture is great for any traffic spaces. It can be used in wet areas. That texture is going to provide some grip, which is really nice. I guarantee you your clients will be doing a double take when they look at this tile because it really does look like real, like weathered leather. It's awesome.
One question on explaining what does color body mean?
Oh, totally. Great question. So color body, if you look at the edges of these tiles, you'll notice that the base or the bisque layer of the porcelain has a color very close to the surface layer. This actually has two benefits. The first one is 100% aesthetic. These are made with this colored body so that when they put the glaze on top, they get a really rich, saturated tone to the surface color. If you were to try to print a rich saturated tone on a light base, what you'd end up with is a sort of muted tone. So by coloring the base layer, we just add to that really rich coloring that we're able to get with the top layer. In addition, when you have a color-bodied porcelain, if this were to ever chip or scratch, those kinds of things would not be very noticeable at all. So you'd be able to sort of have that little scratch or chip, and most people won't be able to see it at all. Awesome question.
Great. And we had another question about this being a large format tile. Does it have bull nose? And if not, what would you recommend if it's used on the wall?
Yeah, so again, this was created as a floor option, but it's beautiful on a wall as well. And I think that, with anything where we don't have, the manufacturer that's creating this, having that coordinating trim piece, we've got colors here at the tile shop that range from, white with solid white to white with veining to darker colors with veining or not. That metal edging is another great option. With these ones, they sort of have a little bit of a contemporary flair to them. So some of our metal Somersets in like the dark stainless steel would be gorgeous for that coffee, or like the sort of antique bronze would be great for the cappuccino as well. Another great thing is if you're using this on a wall in like a bathroom is to coordinate those edge pieces with the fixtures and the hardware that you use. Awesome. So our next collection is called the BLOT collection, and this is the brainchild of designer Gordon Guillaumier. Now his work has mainly focused on contemporary, almost minimalist furniture pieces, but he recently partnered with PMA Samriche, which is an Italian studio, for this tile collection. So these are 8-inch porcelain tiles, and they're available in 3 different colors. We have the Noon, which is featured in the top right photo, the Dusk, which is the top left, and then the Midnight, which is the bottom left. These designs are inspired by the way that an ink blot would sort of spread out on parchment. So you can see in each of these colorways how you get these very sort of organic shapes to that sort of circular ink blot in the center of each of them. And in addition to the overall round shape, you also get the sort of interesting way that ink would sort of spread out within that ink blot as well, which is really interesting. Each of these products will have 20 different faces for each of these colors. So you're going to be able to see a nice variation. Hexagons are really great too, because unlike other sizes, a hexagon, you can rotate it in 6 different directions. So those ink blots will look different as you rotate those and move them around throughout the design. Additionally, the ink blot here is applied with a slightly different glaze that gives it a little bit more of a reflective quality. And I think you can really see that featured in the bottom left photo of the Midnight color. That is got that gorgeous sort of blue, navy blue, black ink blot on that solid black surface. And those ink blots really have that sort of reflective sheen. So that makes that design pop, but also as you move through a space and light reflects on it differently, it sort of will highlight different tiles in a really interesting way. All right, this is a very cool collection. I'm very excited about this one. This is our Decorandum collection. These are porcelain wallpaper look tiles, and they are exquisite both in their beauty and also in the technology that's used to create them. Now, one thing you'll notice if you look in the bottom left is the thickness is very different from a traditional porcelain tile. On the left is one of our wallpaper tiles, and on the right is a traditional porcelain. Traditional porcelain is usually somewhere in the range of 10 millimeters in thickness. And the wallpaper tiles are only about 3.5 millimeters. So it's almost a third the thickness of a traditional tile. Now, the reason that these were produced very thin like this is because we want people to be able to use them in applications where you would traditionally use wallpaper. So if you're using this above a wainscoting and you have to have that seam between your wallpaper or this wallpaper tile and your chair rail or your cap on your wainscoting, or maybe where it meets up against the crown molding at the ceiling, if you had a thick tile, it would be very obvious that it's really covering up some of that trim. The thinness of these allow you to use these in applications where you would normally use wallpaper, and it would look just as seamless. Now, these are available in 3 different patterns. We have the Genius, which is the very bright, bold floral colors. If you look on the right, you'll see a sort of a detailed photo of the Genius. What I love about this one is that it truly looks like a watercolor painting that's been painted over like an inked, a hand penned design. Then we have the Pluma, which is the feather pattern. Again, the detail shot up in the top left really shows how detailed the print and the pattern is here. And finally, the Toile-inspired Saltus, that great black and white graphic pattern. And you can see there in the bottom left how detailed that is. One of the things I love about this too, in addition to the print being very detailed, is the texture, the surface texture there. In all 3 of these, it's as if this wallpaper is made on top of a linen, and then the print or the pattern is applied on top of that really interesting surface. So the technique that's used to make these tiles and give them such exquisite detail is called a cold glaze technique. So it really allows for these vivid and brilliant colors. The detail and the crispness of the lines is great. And it also allows for that sort of unique soft texture. Now, cold glaze does not mean that it's cold. It just means it's colder than what we normally would see when we're firing the glaze on a tile, which is at many thousands of degrees. So this is slightly cooler and allows the glaze and the inks to dry a little bit slower, which means you get that really great detail. So again, these can be used anywhere a traditional wallpaper can be used. However, these can also be used in spaces that you can't use wallpaper. So wet spaces like showers and around a tub, or even in places where you're going to get a lot of wear and tear and messes, like in a kitchen backsplash. If you have kids and they draw on this with a marker, wipe it right off. If you have a high-end wallpaper, you're probably not going to be able to do that. Additionally, these wallpaper tiles are super easy to install. Some of the patterns that we have here, if this was on a real wallpaper, some of these higher end wallpapers can run, even upwards of $100 a square foot. And if you pay that much for your wallpaper, you probably want a really good installer to put it up, which means he's probably going to be fairly expensive as well. With these, they go up just like any old porcelain tile would go up. They're perfectly squared off on the edges, so your regular tile installer will have no problems putting these up.
We had a couple questions. One, are there any different installation processes or additional maintenance with these pieces, given their thickness and thinness?
Totally, great question. So the thinness would dictate, as per the manufacturer's recommendations, that these are cut with a score and snap type cutter versus using a wet saw. The vibrations on the wet saw can cause the tile to crack if you're trying to cut it that way, whereas a score and snap is going to give you that really clean, crisp edge. Other than that, it's really making sure you're using the right size trowel. For these ones, because they're so thin, we do recommend a smaller size notch trowel, so 3/16 or 1/4 inch. but everything else is pretty much the same. Again, we would recommend a cementatious grout, but nothing acrylic for these.
Great. And then the other question was about how, what does directional mean, as it was noted on the first slide for these?
Oh, completely. So let's look at the Pluma pattern here. I think it's probably most easily recognized there. If I were not to install all of these tiles all running in the same direction, where in the Pluma case, it would be the sort of pinions of the feathers face down, the pattern wouldn't line up and it would look sort of like a jumble. It would really throw off the Genius and the Saltus because none of those patterns and florals would line up with each other. So we see this a lot in any pattern tile. You see it with the sort of encaustic look or the cement look tiles that are done in porcelain, where you got to make sure that you're lining them up in the right direction. It's just as important for these ones as well. Great question. Alrighty, so our next collection here is called Trentino. And I'm sure you've seen wood look tile, and I am sure you have seen cement look tile, but with the Trentino collection, you get the best of both worlds. What I love about this is that in addition to the print being a great combination of the wood and the cement, the texture is perfect for each side of these tiles. So you get that great wood grain texture on the wood areas, and you get that really nice soft texture of like a weathered cement on the cement side. So these are 8-inch porcelain tiles, and they are available in the two colors that you see here. The Stevo, which has sort of a light, pale, almost birchwood wood grain with that light gray cement. And then the Fossa colorway, which is more of a rich sort of maple wood with more of a dark charcoal cement. So I love how they have incorporated the cement and the stone together, and just looking at individual tiles, you can see that this is really interesting. But the best part of the Trentino collection is actually the ability to make it your own. So this is just a sampling of some of the patterns that you can create with these tiles. You can create herringbones, you can create windmill or pinwheel patterns, you can create diamond shapes. Really, the sky is the limit. So if you've got that customer that wants that unique look that no one else is going to have, even if you have two clients that just so happen to pick this, they're going to have completely different options when it comes to playing with pattern here. All right, so our next collection is our Manhattan collection, and this is inspired by the parquet look in wood. We've seen our wood look tiles. I would say you can't call wood look a trend anymore. It's just another tile that we're going to see. It's never going to go away. But what we are seeing is some interesting takes on wood. So we've seen things from contemporary planks, thin planks, thick planks. We've seen rustic and reclaimed wood looks. And here we have a take on a parquet. What I love about this, though, is that in addition to the wood grain being a little bit more of a contemporary feel, the size and scale of the parquet pattern here is really interesting. Typically, parquets are a little bit tighter, a little smaller, but these are 24-inch by 24-inch porcelain tiles. So each of these square sections of this parquet pattern is very nice and oversized and would be perfect for a larger space, or for making any size space appear larger. Now, these come in two different colors. They have the Mercury and the Shadow. The Mercury is a great sort of gray beige, warm gray or taupe color, and the Shadow is a little bit cooler and a little bit darker gray. These are really exciting. All right, so our next, well, I don't know if we call it a collection, but at least we can call it a trend. So large format or large scale tiles. Technically, a large format tile is defined as any tile with one size longer than 15 inches. And for years, we've been seeing tiles get even bigger and bigger than that. At the major tile shows like Coverings and Versailles in Italy, we've even seen porcelain tile slabs as large as 5 feet by 10 feet. But it sort of begs the question, why are tiles getting bigger? Well, I think there's a lot of reasons, but I think you can sort of boil it down to 3. The first one is that a larger size tile, in most cases, is really going to make a space feel more expansive, bigger, more open. Additionally, with these larger pieces, the print on the tile can be a little bolder. The pattern can have a little bit more movement than you might want to see on a small scale tile. If you tried to cram a really interesting bold pattern onto something small, and you have a lot of those pieces because you need a lot more pieces of tile with a small tile, then that can be really busy. With these large ones, we can get these really bold, unique, interesting veining in marble or just overall pattern without it getting a little too busy. Finally, I think larger format tiles mean that you need fewer of them. Fewer tiles means that you can go with fewer grout joints and you can go with tighter grout joints, which means that you're going to have a more seamless look. But also on the maintenance side, fewer grout joints always means a little bit less maintenance. So this year we've added quite a few large format tiles to our assortment. Here we've got some great white marble looks, and you can see that they range the spectrum from very subtle veining to very strong and very bold colors. Additionally, they go from sort of cool, very traditional Carrara white background with the gray veining to very, very interesting sort of rusty and bolder warm tones as well. My favorite in this group has got to be the Macchia Vecchia. The circle detail there is not a photo of this tile, it's a photo of real Macchia Vecchia marble. So you can see how perfectly this product nails the real thing. It's just absolutely incredible, the detail on these patterns. And you can see in the scale here, even though there's a lot of movement, it doesn't feel like it's too much because these are such large tiles that they can handle the amount of pattern here. Here are a few more of our large format tiles that we added. These are a little less marble look and a little more stony, especially the two on the right. And the two on the right here, the Erding Pearl and the Manaus White, really have such great like brushed stone texture. And so, you know, in addition to that great sort of stone look print, they've got a really great surface feel. However, on this slide, my favorite's definitely the one on the left, the Santorini, for a couple reasons. One, I love this look of like a crushed marble mosaic that you might see, you know, in the Greek Isles. Additionally, there's a technology piece here. In a lot of tiles, when you have some kind of surface texture, that texture comes from the mold that is used to make the base of the tile, and then that textured mold gets the glaze applied on top, and so the overall tile has a textured feel. However, the print of the tile or the veining or the movement doesn't typically follow precisely the texture on that base. And so what you get is you get a nice texture, but it's not exactly how you would get it in a real thing, like a real stone. Now with the Santorini, a technology called deep ink technology has been used. And you can see in the detail shot here, the sort of the grout joints between those small pieces of white marble are slightly recessed. So it looks like a real mosaic with grout between them. That deep ink technology is those grout joints, that is a slightly different glaze than is used for the rest of the tile. So that means it sort of sinks a little bit lower during the glazing and firing process. So you have a pattern and a print that match each other perfectly one for one. Awesome. So our next collection here is our Roma Impression Marble. We were so excited when we ran across this because it's such a unique look. The colors, the movement, the depth were just something that we hadn't seen before. When we add in a new stone, we make sure that we try everything we can to really bring out the true beauty of that stone. So we try multiple finishes to see what looks best. We look at the different sizes to see what goes best. We try different grades of material to really make sure that we're getting the best quality and the best look overall. Now, when we brought in the Roma Impression, we tried polished finishes, we tried a honed finish, a brushed finish, and we realized that this movement really came to life when the stone was polished. Additionally, we tried a lot of sizes. Typically with stones, we have, our 12 by 24, our really popular size, our 8-inch by 20-inch. But we realized that the movement in here was so bold and it really worked better on these smaller sized formats. So the largest that we went was the 4-inch by 12-inch subway pattern. And then we have these other three coordinating mosaics. I love the colors here. You get the black, you get the blue, you get the white, you get the brown. This really allows you to play around with, you know, different tones in your palettes. You can go a little warmer, you can go a little cooler, and this is still going to work for you. Lastly, we did want to make sure that we had a trim piece to go with this marble collection. But again, because we know that the pattern is so bold and the movement is so rich, we wanted to make sure that the trim piece was small as well. So it was just enough to finish off an edge, but didn't feel like it was chunky and was sort of affecting the overall look. All right, so last but not least, we have our exclusive collection from Diesel with Iris Ceramica. Now, most of us are familiar with the Diesel fashion brand that was founded in the 1970s and is well known for clothing and footwear and accessories. But in 2008, Diesel started partnering with some of the major players in Italian interior design, like Moroso and Forscarini and Saletti, and bringing that same rebellious sense that they brought to the fashion world to interior design. Most recently, Diesel has partnered with the Italian tile manufacturer Iris Ceramica and introduced the following really bold industrial lines. These are great for a customer who is looking for that unique, specific look. So our first collection from Diesel is called Shades of Blinds. This is inspired by the way that light filters through closed window blinds. The ombre effect is so perfectly done here, and it goes from that sort of rich, vibrant color or saturated tone down to a subtle, almost white version of the same tone. And it's available in 6 different colors. So we have the black, the green, which is a very Diesel color, the blue, gray, pink, and white. The best part of this look is how you can play around with the layout to get completely different designs. So if you look in the top right is really where that inspiration came from. So it's that way that light filters through these closed blinds, right? But then in the bottom left, you have this really interesting herringbone on the 90-degree that takes this design in a completely different direction. Same thing with the herringbone on the diagonal, a completely different look with the same tiles. You can even take the ombre where you go in the same horizontal rows from dark to light and then light to dark again. So you sort of exaggerate that ombre effect. Additionally, these colors really, really work well with another collection in the Diesel line. And that collection is the canvas line. Now, the Diesel canvas line is inspired by the sort of thick fabric of army canvas. But what I love about this is that we take that sort of rougher textured feel and we add a little bit of glamour and elegance with the semi-lepato finish. So semi-lepato is sort of half polished and half matte. And you can see in the photo here how the raised areas of this textured design are very shiny and they give that polished feel. And the recessed areas are perfectly matte. So you get the benefit of adding light with the reflective nature of the polished areas and also the benefit of a great texture for putting in wet areas where you don't want to slip. It's available in 4 different colors. So you've got the black, the gray, and the white, as well as that diesel green. And I really do think that the best feature here is that semi-lepato finish. When you see these tiles from a distance, they look fully polished. And when you get up front, you see that there's a lot more dimension to the look. And our last collection from Diesel is our metal perf collection. This is a much more industrial look. You can see the color palette here is much warmer, and it's really inspired by the way that metals oxidize. So our first product here is a 4-inch by 8-inch ceramic subway tile. It's the top photo there on the right. It's the top piece. And you can see the pattern here is inspired by perforated metal. So you get those great holes, and then you get the oxidized sort of rusty patterns on the surface there. The bevel really adds a layer of depth and dimension to the design. So when you're laying this out, you're going to get, in addition to the print, you're going to get some really cool shadowing effect because of the shape of that tile. Our next tile is also a 4x8 ceramic subway tile. And this one you can see is inspired by sort of corrugated metal, again, having that rusty effect. Both of these tiles being a 4x8, which is that perfect 1-to-2 ratio from width to length, meaning that when you're laying these out, you can really play around with sort of non-traditional layouts with subway design. So you don't just have to lay them all horizontally or all vertically stacked or staggered. You can really play around with how things lay out to give you some really interesting and unique looks. Finally, we have our corresponding floor tile. This is a porcelain floor tile. And if you look in the top right photo there, it's sort of the background of that photo. This is also inspired by perforated metal. And this is also that great semi-lepato finish. So you can see the holes in the perforations here are that matte finish, and then the areas around those are the polished finish. In addition to being polished, it also has a really awesome metallic sheen to it. So it's got shiny, it's got the metallic sort of iridescence almost, and then it's got that really great matte finish and texture. Finally, one of our absolute favorite things is when we see photos from our customers when they've used our products. We are always on the hunt for inspiration ourselves. Our customers, you guys, are always on the lookout for inspiration, and these photos just mean the world to us. We love seeing what people do. We love seeing whether it's a designer, a home builder, a DIYer, or just you went to your friend's house and saw a really cool backsplash and knew it was Tile Shop and you tagged us. We love to see it. So we always encourage you, if you're posting these on your social platforms, to tag us, or you can upload them directly to our website. We just absolutely love to see it. And I can't wait to see photos of these new collections as people start to use them. We're really excited about it. Okay, so if anyone has any questions that we didn't answer during the presentation, please feel free to ask them now. We've sort of given ourselves a little bit of a buffer in time so that we don't go over, and we make sure that you guys' time is super valuable to you. So.
Yeah. So, well, if you don't have any, I know there were some great questions. Thank you guys for participating, and I hope we got everything answered. If not, our emails will be up at the end of this presentation. You can screenshot them and feel free to reach out to us directly with any follow-ups or any thoughts you had. So, lastly, Luke, if you want to switch, just wanted to remind everyone, again, thanks for joining us today. Hope you found this presentation exciting, interesting. You learned some new things about our new products. Remind you about our pro rewards and our exclusive pro benefits for professional partners. So along with tiered discounts and free samples, we have a 5% back rebate program. So if you're specifying product and you're not purchasing it, or you're sending in a homeowner, you can earn 5% back on those referred orders, and you can get it directly deposited to your account monthly. So if you want to learn more about that, feel free to reach out to ourselves or your local store or your local pro market manager. We can put you in touch with the right people to get you set up for that. Also, as always, our pros get free samples. These things are so much better in person. So you can order those online for free pickup as a pro. They're always free for pros. So great benefits, and we hope and are excited to see what you could do with some of these new products. Thanks again for joining us today, and have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, and be on the lookout for a follow-up email with a survey. We really want to know what you guys think about this presentation, but also about the new collections. And if you think there's anything that you'd like to see that you feel like we don't have. So definitely be a lookout for that. Our emails are here at the bottom of the screen. Oh, also, the survey, if you take the survey, you'll be entered into a competition where you can win a Tile Shop gift card. So please look out for that survey, and we appreciate you taking it.
Yep. Thanks for your time today, everyone. Have a good one.
Have a great day, guys.